what is going on with David's census, and why was it such a great sin? We must realize David is at the height of his kingdom. He has fulfilled prophecies of the conquest of the Promised Land, and notably a prophecy from Deuteronomy 12, written 500 years earlier, which states, "When the Lord gives you rest from all your enemies, then to the place which the Lord your God will choose, there you shall bring your sacrifices." So it is a time of blessing and peace and of preparation for the temple. But David, who has lived so much of his life at war, perhaps cannot trust the Lord to give him a season of peace. He wants to count his potential soldiers, just in case. In this, he fails a test of faith. For when God told Abraham about his descendants and to look at the stars and count them if you can, it was not a moment for counting, but for faith. But David wants to count the descendants of Abraham. What God had promised would be uncountable, and in a way guaranteeing that the promise is not fulfilled. And then what does God do? Ironically, he subtracts from their number. 70,000 people die, which is over 5% of all that Joab counted, and reminds the psalmist king that a king is not saved by his great army. The Lord is our help and our shield. And all the swords of Israel are no match for the one sword of the angel of the Lord, in a terrifying twist of Passover, where the destroying angel now brings a plague upon Israel. And at this, David remembers that in the kingship, these people are not his own, but the Lord's. And David actually calls them in this moment, these sheep. So David remembers who he is and who he was at the beginning, a shepherd. He remembers the love he had at first, when he sang in the fields, "The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want." When he prayed, "You, Lord, have been my help. In the shadow of your wings I rejoice." But now these terrifying angel wings cause a dark shadow, as David realizes he has everything the world could offer, but somehow something is left wanting in his own heart. He does not yet fully have the heart of the shepherd, who leaves the abundance of the 99 to go in search of the one. But he stays back to obsessively count the 99, and has lost the one sheep that may very well be his own soul, which is beginning to become corrupted, infecting all the sheep. And here, like Abraham, David is facing a test of faith. And thankfully, David still has the repentant heart of a hero, and connecting back to Abraham, the very site of his repentance is actually the same place Abraham offered his only son. Because the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite is Mount Moriah, which is Mount Zion, Jerusalem. These are all the same location, and just after our reading ends, David buys the threshing floor, builds an altar, sacrifices, and averts the plague, at the same place where would later be the altar of the cross, where the plague of sin would be averted by sacrifice, and not for Israel only, but for the uncountable people of all the nations of the world. And so it is at the threshing floor of the foreigner, where the wheat is separated from the chaff in the heart of the king, who had become a foreigner to himself. And the king remembers he is a shepherd, and the king becomes a priest. But this king is not allowed to build the temple. 1,000 years later, a sinful Roman emperor would command another census, which would unexpectedly bring a baby to the hometown city of David, and that child later as a man to the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite, where the king would not only become a priest, but also the victim, the one sheep, spotless and pure, who would lay down his life as the good shepherd for the many, for the uncountable, not conquering by the sword, but by the threshing floor of the heart in the heroic test of faith. So even in the midst of our sometimes amazing faithlessness and failure, it is at the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite the Lord comes to meet us, and at the very place of our repentance, the Lord beckons to us, let us here build the temple. And in an invitation to peace, let us join the glory of our ancestors, not counting up our own strength, but offering the sacrifice of faith.